Hey there, welcome. We are now live. This is hey board, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay, pretty good. We'd like to welcome everybody to the first installment of Not Like This. This is going to be a web show about lessons learned the hard way, in e-commerce and in business, and generally around technology. And you might find us talking about decisions that were made that we wish that we could unmake, decisions that some of clients or people we've worked with have made too, but really kind of just the basis of that. Not like this is for us to not talk about what works, but hopefully to talk about why we need to make things better and what we've done to do that. So that's not like this. And we ask you to bear with us when we jump in and talk about this. This week, we are going to be talking about editorial experiences. Now, an editorial experience, as far as any of you might understand, is a text editor within the back end of a rich text editor, a media editor in the back end of whatever data system that you're using. How would you describe it, Board?
No, I think it's what you said. But I also like to think of this a little bit as call it employee experiences. I mean, it's typically the back office experience in enterprise software has traditionally, in my experience, been suboptimal, right? So it's shoehorning and workaround processes and compromises. And one of the things that we have discussed before this stream is in terms of, okay, what's the next step on our end in terms of editorial experience, and where do we want to push it based on where we know at least we don't want to have it.
And then we get this way because there are just so many profiles that end up working within the back office of our systems. And getting them to live all in the same tank is sometimes more of a stressful job than actually building the system itself.
Yeah. And one of the things we actually struggled with, I would say, in terms of the design process, and very, very iterative when we work on, okay, how can we improve this this experience? And we figured out that we were trying to please very different types of users with the same interface. We didn't manage to do that.
Does everybody like Coke? Yes. That's what everybody gets. I mean, you can't really you have different functions. You have one that's largely, I mean, you break them down. You have super creative functions, and you have super data driven and data management side. Those really are forced into the same kind of environment to be able to work and play together. And oftentimes, in the pursuit of trying to accommodate one, they will actually remove features because they end up muddying the water for those who might use it, and in other ways, more creative ways versus more data-centric ways. So it's kind of like this war of attrition. No one wants to make it better for either side, so they say, well, let's leave it like it was, in 2006. Let's not touch it.
But also this incremental adding of tabs and secondary, tertiary navigations. You see these softwares that are growing with just more buttons, and not trying to rethink it, which I think it's a mistake.
No, it's like, and it's really clear because we haven't seen a lot of examples that stand out outside of that. And if you take some of those examples that are trying to change how you edit and create product or content or data, they seem to be really going all in on one profile. They are segregating themselves and saying you really can't have the same interface. So therefore, you need to make sure that content management is a microservice you're buying day one, because you can't do that what you want to do that in the same interface. So it's kind of like this weird extension, and it just doesn't seem to be fixing itself. It doesn't seem to be going away in the way that we're very also clever about building interfaces that accommodate, but we just can't get there. Well, theoretically, we can't get there. I remember building my first web shop, which was actually in WordPress. It started off as a content site, and I wanted to add products. So this sounds like probably a very familiar story to everybody. Adding products to it, we were adding now a product and a business layer to on top of a content device, which we can call WordPress, and that's where the world began, for all intents and purposes. And I just remember that I remember, and I can't remember since, that it hasn't been a scenario where I'm shoehorning in one aspect on top of another one, picking one interface that I want to have forever, and then deciding that I'll add all the other pieces that might be slapped together from an app store or modules or ways to interface with it, all completely causing, pulling your hair out. Sounds familiar?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's to be clear about the personas. Who are you trying to build something for? And as we say in Crystallize, we have different types of targets in terms of the personas that we want to please. And obviously, our focus on developer experience is very different from the focus that we have on marketeers, because and that's a quite obvious one, right? You're working with APIs and SDKs and all of the developer tooling. But the tools for marketeers, we're always saying that, okay, that's the same box, that's the same input, and this is
conform. You're the same. Conform.
Yeah, but in all fairness, this is something that we basically realized this fall. So it's not like we're super brilliant and I've been thinking about this for years and years. But it's and maybe we can show
the beginning of this. We're trying to tackle it, and it is a really inherently hard question to ask. But I think that it should be simpler than the market decides it to be. But who are we serving, right? Depends. We are the profile that uses our software. We want to please, and we want everybody to be able to use it efficiently. We don't want inconsistencies in that experience either. We don't want one group to be relegated to the CLI to do any work on a system, and one to have this, a Lego set of pretty content media structures on the front end. It's inherently siloed, and it feels like it pulls two parts of the organization apart, when it really should be actually like hugging each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And of course, yeah.
No, you have up our editorial experience, but this looks like this is clearly for a marketer, right?
Yeah. So and this goes back to our approach based on what we learned how not to do it. Is we tried to get everybody into the same interface. We had a single interface to work with product information and the storytelling that we are focusing on with Crystallize. And then we figured out marketers. Of course, you want to have an overview over. In this case, it's sofas, and you want to have a beautiful product story in a simple to use interface, right? But then we figured that there is a tool that a lot of our enterprise clients use, which seems to be the most enterprise of enterprise tools, which is a spreadsheet. That's that's the source of all the product data in all organizations. A little bit jokingly, but quite seriously joking. That is
completely. Yeah. I would say that data managers, were spending like 95% of their actual work time inside of a spreadsheet, and then they are uploading and overwriting their work every time. That's not, that is not necessarily efficient. It's decided by the market what you have available to you. How do you work faster? Well, you work where you can make changes to data rapidly.
And we also found that we had different types of clients. We had the clients that are using Crystallize for, just simple one variant products, like a plot, right? And here I see that, of course, maybe the product name should be a little bit prettier, so I changed that. And in that context, this kind of view really works. So you have one variant, you got the stock and you got the price, and then you can add the product storytelling and related products, etc. And then we have the other guys that are working in spreadsheets with inherently complex products. So what we basically
product generally packed with product data that's being powered by a PIM, or should be, but it's being managed outside. Kind of defeats the purpose of a PIM.
I know. So our approach was to introduce 2 different modes, so that we have what we literally call a pretty mode, where the idea is this: when you navigate the product, it should be visually pleasing, and the vision is it should be more visually pleasing than in most e-commerce storefronts. That's the reach there. And then we wanted to create a familiar experience when you work with product data. So nerdy mode, which is basically acting like you would expect in a spreadsheet, so that you can do things like even cut and paste directly from Crystallize. You can modify, let's say, some attributes and cut and paste back. So this focus on efficiency and getting the job done, that's a very different focus than, okay, I need to get some good copy that sells this plot, right?
And we're also not like, I also think we're not trying to stop people from using spreadsheets. I think what we want them to feel, and we want our users to feel, is that we're closer to spreadsheets than they ever could be. There is just an inherent gap between the data that you work on in a spreadsheet and when you bring it into your system. That will be something that most people working with data will have a specific path that they follow to upload or to rewrite or overwrite certain data. But when you think about that barrier in the way, it really does stop a ton of efficiency from just being a natural if we're able to work directly between spreadsheet and our system. So, well, you should. Yeah, go ahead, Board. Let me.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So, because when let's say you're going to sell this or market this a bicycle, then you might start with variant. Maybe you have 59 of these in stock, or if you're working with the marketing copy here, where you want to sell the the underlying story of the bike, you want to tell the background, etc. Maybe you want to add some imagery and so on. So this is the base of kind of creating the actual base product.
Which the product is basically content. When you are selling it this day in 2022, you are selling content with a acquisition layer. Products are just content with an acquisition layer.
Yeah, true. And so what I did now, I just uploaded some images that are being then attached to this variant. But with this bike, it comes in different colors. It comes in different sizes. So what makes a lot of sense in this context is to look at how could I work more efficiently when defining this is a production model that is going to be created. And as we started out with, a lot of the, let's say, the base data you often have in a spreadsheet. When it's surprising how often you end up with, where do you have your product information or the master data? It comes from a spreadsheet because they don't have an efficient way of working with it.
It's a real boilerplate way to keep it. And
so what we did is, okay, how can I, in a simple way, say that I would like to, and just to be clear, now just cut and pasted these color specification and size specification.
Your variants, your variant tree. Mm-hmm.
And then I paste it into this generator, and this is not the most complex product, but it's 8 variants that are now being created. And when working with the spreadsheet mode, you can quite easily, say that, okay, I would like to have this yellow image here, so that it's a familiar interface. You can work with the product data as it's a spreadsheet, but with supporting images, but dragging cells, etc.
I was going to say that you can't do this. Not there are things you can do here that you can't do inside of a spreadsheet.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also, of course, we're not saying that we're going to make an engine that makes calculations more efficient than a spreadsheet, but some simple adjustments, like saying that the sales price is 25% off the retail price, but also doing some vanity pricing, rounding to nearest, I don't know, in this case, 100 minus 5. So you get 2,295 euros for this guy. And maybe also setting the stock to 99. And again, you can easily paste that for the whole variant there. So it's quite efficient. And actually, when I look at this, I started with one row. And in this case, I actually don't need this. So I just have here the base information of my bike product. And it's super simple to generate it, and I can then also switch in between the what we call the pretty view and the nerdy view, and it's this efficiency in terms of being able to quickly generate beautiful product information. But let's say if I want to again paste this data out, and let me just delete this here, and just standard Google spreadsheet, right? So if I would like to do some more fancy calculations here, like this times 0.78, which is a really fancy calculation, right? No, but it's an example of being able to just do this calculation in the familiar spreadsheet. If it's Google or called Microsoft, doesn't matter. And then paste it back and forth.
That's incredible synergy between the two of them. That you're able to really almost like you're not even changing the interface in which you're using it to be able to work on that. And let's remember that the product data that's sitting in spreadsheets that we are using as master data, it should be in some sort of PIM. It should be something that can be served very easily, rapidly, or else there's really no point to keeping your product data in anywhere except for that. I mean, a spreadsheet can be helpful. Export via CSV, maybe. But we're talking about some enterprise level functions that are required. And each of those spreadsheets are going to be structured just like this. They're going to be variants and variant sets and trees. They're going to be set in the spreadsheet just like this, creating a product and building the content for it. I mean, you were just removing remarkable amounts of steps from the likes of WordPress, WooCommerce, Shopify, BigCommerce. Just you really are speeding it up.
And the familiarity of the hotkeys, and just the efficiency of just doing setting all the prices. That's a lot of click in most e-commerce software to achieve that, right? Yeah. So that's really I think the vision of, there's not one size fits all here. So we have the pretty view, we have the nerdy view, and we have our developer view, the GraphQL API. And this is an example of how you can look at the same data in different ways. And of course, this is a power when you're putting your product data into Crystallize. You have it structured, and you have very easily access to it. And this is I really dig this generator and the simplicity of it. And one of the things that I also like is because you can have solutions with let's say fixed sets, predefined sets, size, color, etc. But often there is a combination or more. Like the petroleum blue, it only comes in medium. So having these exceptions being handled very, very easily also is one of the things I really like with this. So it's structured, but it gives you the free form flexibility of a spreadsheet, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And then as a developer, you can easily get out all of the data in a super structured way, and of course use it to build a storefront or catalog or whatever you want to do.
Great teamwork tool. I mean, it's a function that now loops in, I think, data managers, and I think that, you know, it kind of tries to cover all those who might be working in that space. I think it's awesome. But these are hard things to have learned this late. You know, I think that we're getting to the point where we are merging. And I touched on this, and I would love to hear what you think, Ford. But we're merging product and content. There is no longer a dividing line between those. And if we are building for the modern web, we are treating products like content. We can clearly see that the market desires content to better sell products. You know, test after test has shown that it's the content that is selling the product. And how can we live in this world where they are inherently segregated from the time that you begin, even on some of the most mass market products that exist, like a Shopify? Even in that world, in that zone, they still haven't figured that out yet. And I think that we'll probably see a lot more like this in the future, I hope.
At least that's the direction we're going in. And I think it's a different most of the industry where they're making more microservices just to manage just this part of it. But it's quite annoying if you have multiple logins to achieve what I just showed now with you know, less than a minute. You can populate a quite it's not necessarily a complex product, but it's not the most trivial either, right? So it's got retail sales prices, different stocks. You get the different SKUs for the different variants, and this is just a starting point, right? So, but that type of efficiency in order to market and sell your products, I think that's definitely what we've learned. At least is it should be in the same interface, but the interface should have different target modes. If you're a developer, if you're let's say working with the data as a data manager, or working on the marketing story, it's three sides of building beautiful shopping experiences.
Yeah, and building it for a team that can all be on the same page and not have to be thinking in different silos, not have to be transfixed, and everyone can be on the same page from the design decisions, the product decisions, the developer decisions, all those on the same kind of one. Well, beautiful, board. This to me seems this is really going to be fun to work with, and we encourage anybody who is listening to check it out. You can find us at crystallize.com. Go check it out, have a demo, and you'll be able to see this live. If you have any questions, you should also jump into our Slack community. We are live and chatty, and we're here to help you figure out how you're going to build your next beautiful front end, and how to power it with products and great content. That's what we're here for. Cool. All right. Board, what do you say, sir? All right.
I think we're good to go.
We'll do.
What?